Hello once again. I'm happy to welcome you on our product management mock interview. Today we have a unique opportunity not only see how product management interview is conducted, but also know what exactly interviewer wants to hear from the candidate. If the candidate will pass today's interview successfully, she will be promoted to product management title automatically. It's a unique. Welcome our candidate, Ekaterina Slisenko. Hi, Kate.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
And I'm happy to introduce you our interviewer. He has conducted dozens of interviews and closely worked with our product managers as a skill advisor in EPAM, Roman Dubovets.
Hello there.
Hi, Roman. And during the interview, you'll see the comments from our expert in the chat session, and welcome our expert, Vlad Grubman, product manager and EPAM. He actively participates in product management assessment committees, so know everything about their difficult questions. So let's start. Ekaterina, good luck.
All right. Ekaterina, Kate, Katya, which do you prefer?
Kate is fine.
Kate is fine. Great. So, Kate, how are you today? How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Thank you very much. How are you?
Well, same here. Great. Are you from Petersburg?
Yeah, I'm from
How's the weather there right now?
Well, it's not bad, to be honest. It's quite warm for the season, and it's almost plus 20 degrees. So it's a good day. It's a bit stormy, but
usual Petersburg weather.
Yeah,
I got it. So anyway, right. I see as you like it. So let's keep our day as awesome as it was before this interview, or even make it better. And let's talk and have some fun. So first, let me introduce myself to you. My name is Roman. I'm working in EPAM since early autumn of 2020, and I'm a product manager here. Product management in EPAM is a rapidly evolving and growing area, but that is not to say that it is something new to the company. Quite on the contrary, we do have product management in EPAM for many years, but it is in these last several years that it's extremely well received. It's needed to the company, so we are looking for talented product managers. And here is this one slight difference between a large enterprise like EPAM and smaller companies, because in smaller companies they sometimes have a product, they have a need for a product management for that specific product or project, and when they find the proper person, they just close the position. However, in EPAM, since we have thousands of employees and we have a lot of projects and products appearing every week within the company, we are constantly looking for new talents. And I'm actually part of the product management community. And by that, I mean that we actually do have a collaboration of product managers in EPAM who are participating in developing of competencies within the company. We do have blogs, so we do hold conferences, we do develop different educational programs, both internal and external, like courses on LinkedIn, which company pays for. We do have different useful materials which a candidate or even employee can study, and we do have different certificates which one can undergo and increase his competency. So yeah, we are doing everything in order to have our people within the company and product managers in this case to grow and to develop. One little thing I want to also add before moving to the interview itself is the difference between product owner and product manager, because we have both of them. Of course, many people do know the difference, but for some of them it may be sometimes tricky. So it's rather simple. Product owner is a role, just like in Scrum. In EPAM, we do have product owners, and those can be both business analysis and product managers. But you can be like a junior or senior product owner because it's just a role for a specific project. On the contrary, product manager is an actual career track. It's a title. You can be associate product manager, senior product manager, and so on. So that's a slight difference. And I also want to tell you just a few more things. One of them is that, like I mentioned, EPAM nowadays can be also called a product organization because we do have our own products, we do have B2C products, B2B products, and we do have internal products. And this is a rather important area for us because you see, in IT field, and I believe even not in even IT field, but in general, in the modern world, professionals, employees do have the need for different tools, different applications for tracking, for analytics, for communication, etc. And normally, other companies buy subscriptions or, of course, search for free ones. But in EPAM, we think, hey, since we are effective product developers and IT solution developers, why won't we develop our products for ourselves? And since we are a large enterprise with more than 40,000 people, it's an important internal market for us. So, of course, we do have such internal projects, and we do need product managers to conduct those product developments. But of course, EPAM is still also a service organization as well, and product management might be part of offering which EPAM suggests to its clients. So that's it. Do you have any questions about the above mentioned?
No, that's fine. Everything is clear.
Excellent, thank you. Well, then I pass the word to you, and please tell me about your most relevant and most recent experience regarding the business analysis or product management. What are your projects and what are your contribution to a project as you see it?
Sure. All right. Well, I've been working as a business analyst for more than 7 years now. During my career, I had experience in multiple business domains. I started with telecom, and after joining EPAM, I worked in legal, in life sciences, and e-commerce domains with global customers. So my current engagement is in e-commerce domain with one of the largest health and beauty retail groups in the world. I work with one of the business units. It's the largest specialized fragrance retailer in the UK. They have both online and offline stores. I perform the product owner role for the website of the customer, managing roadmap based on the business priorities, on estimations. The client has a quite diversified IT landscape with many systems. So one of the ongoing challenges there is ensuring the cross-team communication, tracking dependencies. Most of the activities involve multiple stakeholders across multiple locations. So I can work with people in the UK, in Italy, in Netherlands, and the team here in St. Petersburg. So my job is to align them to get a consistent and complete set of requirements and to align everything to have a proper streamlined roadmap and lead to the release plan. And for sure, the 2020 challenges required from the business a lot of flexibility and ability to pivot. So I was working quite hard to assist the business to face these challenges like Brexit, like lockdowns with stores being closed. So I worked really closely with the business, providing the solution options, quick wins, and doing my best to be accountable for the challenging areas, for let's say like insurance service continuity of the website post-Brexit. So this is my latest experience. Beside that, as I said, I worked on a life science project this was again on the EPAM. In the EPAM, it was quite a different engagement. It was a very large distributed team, development team, I mean, and we also have a quite large product team that consisted of business analysts and UX designers. There were a lot of challenges there because the learning curve in the life science domain is quite steep. So the product was related to genetics. So I had to learn quite quickly and concentrate on the specific areas to start delivering results as soon as possible. And during the assignment, I owned 2 separate functional areas of the application, and had some experience with conducting interviews and workshop with subject matter experts. Most of them non-IT people, so it was quite an interesting challenge. And another interesting activity during this project was how the collaboration with UX designers and other BAs worked, because as I said, we had quite a large team. So we worked all together on the process models, on the customer journey maps, user story maps, to have all of these artifacts at hand when interacting with different stakeholders. And besides, as a BA, obviously, I provided analytical support to the development team, helping them to understand the business domain better in general, solution requirements in particular. So this was another endeavor that I tackled while during my EPAM journey. And the very first project in EPAM was in the legal domain. So it was a standalone solution for document automation. It was quite nice. There I tried myself as a proxy product owner. For the first time, we got on-site product manager, customer side product manager, and I worked offshore with the development team, working with the roadmap. With the backlog, and working with the team as the proxy PO. So that was my EPAM journey. Please let me know if there are any questions or you want to know anything in particular.
Yeah, well, that was rather interesting, and really what an experience from fragrances to genetics, as I got it.
And backwards. Actually, I started from the most relevant one, because currently I'm working with the fragrances, but yeah, through genetics to fragrances. That was my journey.
Can you please tell me, have you provided market research for the customer, or it was existing model and existing requirements for you?
Well, not market research as such. I did some activities related to benchmarking. So it's more like on the solution side. And it was for the last project that I meant. This is for the document for the legal domain, for the document automation system. We needed to introduce the analytics part of the functionality. So we wanted to have dashboards and reports in the solution. And initially, the solution wasn't built for that. So and this was a classical decision where buy versus build, right? So, and we decided to investigate the route of buy, not build, because obviously it's going to take quite a lot of time and resources to build yet another dashboarding and reporting solution. So I did an investigation of the market, trying to understand how we can tackle the business need. So I talked to several providers of the services, had a couple of demo sessions with several of them, and did the comparison. And as a result of this research, we selected the provider, which was introduced. I mean, it was a kind of standalone module, but it's like a plug and play, so you can put it into your solution and build reports and dashboards based on it. So that was my experience. I guess it's not exactly what you asked, but that's the closest that I had.
Well, I guess that counts. Okay, so after doing a benchmarking, you did provide the like comparison tables or some sort of results to stakeholders.
Yeah.
And how did they find your results and your ideas? Because sometimes you can have the data, but you have to persuade stakeholders, and that's another task.
Well, how do you mean? I mean, how did I present it, or what?
Yeah, and did you face any struggles and any obstacles in presenting this information, and maybe you had to persuade them that it was the right idea?
All right. Yeah, I got it. Well, so the main challenge there was, I guess, the pricing question, because everyone wants to have the solution that is free of charge and does everything that business wants, and it's obviously not possible. So there was some challenge around tackling this. And to be completely honest, I had some support from the product manager on business side. So she did some negotiating related to the price of the solution, so which she helped to remove this obstacle. But yeah, I guess it was the main question, because many of the solutions, like, I don't know, Power BI, apart from having some technical restrictions, so you've got to have a very specific landscape in order for this solution to work, right? So you need to the product should be .NET based, or you should use Microsoft environment before to build the proper solution. Apart from that, there is also a question of the cost, and Power BI is quite a costly one. So there was a bit of the challenge to tackle this, but I must say that the solution that was chosen in the end was one of the cheapest ones, but it still did work. So we managed to resolve this situation.
All right, awesome. But after having this solution, stakeholders might have said, awesome, now we have everything, what next? What was your further steps for improvements or support?
Well, so I guess that after we selected the solution, there was still a question of building the surrounding to introduce the solution into the system. So it's not that we just turn it on the next day and it just worked. And during this process, we did find some things that we needed to make better. And obviously, to go live faster with the solution, we decided to trim it as much as possible to have some kind of a MVP without changing the module much. But we logged everything in the backlog. And to be honest, I soon after finishing this work, I left the team. So not sure what was the progress on the items that we had in the backlog, but we definitely had the things to improve and to build on top of that further. So we had some kind of a roadmap for the feature after it's been introduced.
All right. And speaking of roadmap, do you have experience of actually creating a roadmap from scratch, or you only took the existing roadmap and was further developing it?
Yeah, well, so my current experience, getting back to my fragrance experience, right, with e-commerce, is building roadmap pretty much from scratch. Mm-hmm. So what I have as the entry point is the list of business priorities and programs and projects that business wants to achieve during the year. And so based on this information, I did some business analysis, high-level business analysis, to understand the business needs and business requirements for this, so that I can then try and understand with the development team how we can approach these particular items in order of the priority, right? So that we can have very, very high level sizing of each and everything that we want to put into the roadmap, and having this information at hand, like what we are going to build, what is the business priority for this thing, and what is the approximate size of this thing. It was possible for me to put everything in the roadmap. So for now, we working on a quarter-to-quarter basis. I know that it's not ideal, and to be honest, roadmap should be a bit longer term, but 2020 being 2020, we had to change things, and there were some moving parts and deprioritized things. So we know what we have on the list, and we're now pretty sure what we are going to build for the next quarter or two. So this is how at the very high level we approach the roadmap exercise. And obviously it's not only me who's doing that, right? I'm constantly talking to the business to understand whether the priority has changed or not, or whether this is really what we think it is, and what does it imply from the system perspective, let's say. So this is how it works currently.
Awesome, I see. And well, are you also the person responsible for managing and or rather creating and managing of vision, or those requirements which you like introduce into your roadmap you're getting strictly from the customer himself?
Well, most of the requests comes from the business. We do have some other way of introducing our suggestions alongside with the so-called. It's an interesting practice. On my current project, we have, apart from me as a product owner, we have also a so-called business owner who does, I guess, more like a market research side of things. So together with him, we are more like a product manager. In one of two of us makes one product manager. So, and what he does the market research and comparison with the competitors, and so the obvious competitor is Amazon, but there are also pretty there are also quite a lot of more specialized retailers that work on this particular market. So based on this research, we are able to understand what is the difference in the proposition, right? And on the at the lower level, what's the difference in how website functions. So what are the features that it provides to the customer. So doing this research, we are able to understand what are the weak points of the of our website, and we do present these results of the research to the business, and then it's their call. To be honest, at this point, it's their call whether to introduce the results of our research into the roadmap or not. So we do provide them with this information, but at this point, it's they're making the decision, and it's also because of the fact that we have quite a lot of on our plate from the business side. So we have a lot of things that that business wants to do. And so it's these new things, it's kind of on top, so it's a bit of a low priority, but hopefully we would get some things into the roadmap, at least now for the future quarters. So that's the plan.
I see. All right. And can you maybe tell me a little more about informational inputs you use to come up with your hypothesis and your ideas, apart from, words from a customer or business owner?
Yeah, well, so I think that that's information from how it's the similar functionality works, or how the similar rather problem was resolved by some other company, let's say some competitor. So this is the kind of benchmarking in this way, right? Apart from that, to be honest, it sounds a bit simple, but I use Google. And when you can, when you know what you're searching for, it's sometimes it's quite useful. So you can research for some trends, or if it's related to low things like UX interactions or something, it's quite easy to find what's new, what's modern approaches for tackling this or that problem. So these are the main sources of the new information, obviously, apart from talking to the business and talking to the subject matter experts.
I see. Well, right then you have now a picture. You introduced it to business, but how do you validate it? How do you prove that it's actually a true picture, like it's actually working and has any meaning?
You mean the how I can test the hypothesis?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, so I guess it's a question of MVP. Strictly speaking, MVP is exactly for checking the hypothesis, right? And to be honest, me being closer to the solution part of thing, what we do and what we currently use MVP for mostly is for checking the technical feasibility rather than checking the market fit. But I do see value in also checking the business side of a released MVP, right? So let's. But I'll be honest with you. I don't have such experience right now. So I'm more on the informed basis if we are talking in RACI matrix terms, right? So I'm more on an informed basis on the statistics of the newly released features. So for example, we just released one of the features for rewards products for loyalty customers on the website, and now we can see the statistics on how it's being used. So business shares the statistics with us, and we can understand whether it was really worth it. Like we spent several months of building this, and we see that 100 customers only using it. So maybe it wasn't a good idea to build it after all. But as I said, it's for me right now, it's more like on an informed basis, and I'm more into my current experience is more about checking the technical feasibility using the MVPs rather than the business, rather than the market fit, let's say, right? But I do know that these things exist, and I'd be very excited to use them in my future work if it is possible, because I think that it's immense value, not just to build things because someone told us to build things.
And just in a few words, if you were responsible for that, how would you do that?
Yeah, well, I suppose that I would at the start of any endeavor, I would define what would be the success. How do we define the success, right? So we would understand which metrics we want to track. That would depend hugely on what exactly we're going to build. So it might be different, but it should be something tangible that we can measure, so that after releasing the MVP, we can understand whether we're successful or not with it. So so I would define the metrics, and I would define the ways how I can get these metrics gathered. So some kind of a methodology for that. And after building the solution and launching this, I would track these metrics for a dedicated number of period of time to understand whether it's okay or not, like whether we can deem this as a success or not.
All right, and well, maybe it's too early to call, but do you have an idea which metrics would you use, for example, for your current project to see? For the
well, let's think about it. We have, for example, we do have the we just released recently a feature which is called Favorite Brand, that allows customers to select a favorite brand to get a constant discount for this favorite brand for 12 months, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, for 12 months. So and this is the feature that required behind the scenes quite a lot of work from the integration perspective. For example, it was quite hard to orchestrate this, and also we needed to update some outdated things, so I wouldn't bother you with details. But so to cut long story short, it was quite quite a complex thing, even though it looks quite simple from the storefront, right? So mine before starting this, the decision if it was mine, the solutionizing if it was my call, I would define what would be the goal, like how many people from our target audience I expect to use this particular feature, right? So how many people, so we can finger in the air estimation. I know 5% of the user base, of the loyalty user base, would use this feature in the first months, let's say, right? So if I set this one as the measure of success, then I'd be able to understand in the end whether it was worth building it or not. But right now, as I know that we didn't have such KPI at hand when we started to do that. So at that point, it was us building the solution rather than deciding whether to build it or not. My impression is that the results are not so impressive as they might be. So we spent quite a lot of time, and the feature is not super popular. So yeah, I guess this would be how I would approach this in the first time. And also, I suppose that if it was if it was me who's making the decision, I'd find the way to build a solution to check my hypothesis faster, rather than committing to making all of this integration work and blah 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 before understanding that it wasn't really worth it. So yeah, so hopefully it answers your questions. It's a bit rambling, but
yeah, no problem. Actually, the last part was especially interesting. Like, how would you do that? How would you increase the time to get information without building too much stuff?
Yeah, well, so there are quite a lot of different types of prototypes, right? So and it might be even like what's called Wizard of the Oz prototype, where you just hitting the button on the customer hits the button on the storefront, but behind the scenes it's an actual person who's doing the work. All right, for example, in our case, it might be a customer hits the button, yes, I'm interested in this particular favorite brand proposition, and on the back office, another person, let's say the customer service, would get the notification saying that this person wants to activate this promotion, and it would be a manual job for customer service person to go and activate the promotion for this person manually. So we wouldn't need to build the whole infrastructure around the feature. Maybe it can be just a manual thing to check whether the solution worth building, right? And actually, it reminds me another thing that where this approach was actually used and it proved that it makes sense. There was a hypothesis that clients would like to, let's say, attach a video message to the order while ordering the fragrance, let's say, so that it's present, and I want to attach a video message as a present to this fragrance, and it would be sent to my loved one when the order is being delivered. So instead of building the whole feature, what we did, we just introduced a third party that build a kind of landing page with a button, and we just tracked how many times this button was clicked, and this button was clicked like 10 or 12 times during the week. So it's not a lot, to be honest, because there are millions of people who visit our website actually. So we decided not to build something big because of that, and we just so we kind of using the third-party solution which stands together with the website, but not very integrated into. So it's kind of semi-manual, but yeah, it's there. So it's more like for testing hypothesis than for proper usage. So these are two different approaches. And to be honest, sometimes it's tricky to understand how business decides which approach to take with this or that feature. Probably it's something more strategic games.
All right, yeah, well, that sounds like a pretty smart way to keep useless things outside. So I like that. And speaking of business and strategies, like, well, I think you already mentioned that you play more on informative side, so you are not engaged in like working out a strategy for go-to-market strategy, or
no, not as of now, but yeah,
right.
but it's really an area where I want to go. So I mean, it's where I want to develop, because I think that it's really good to have both sides of this mindset. Like, I mean, one thing is me as a BA can solutionize quite well, right? Because it's my job to build something that was requested. But on the other hand, to come up with the ideas and to understand and to prioritize at the very highest strategic level what should be forwarded to solutionizing side of the brain, right? It also very, very good to have, and I think it would be perfect experience for me. But for now, yeah, I think that more into the solutionized people side.
Yeah, okay. And maybe go again to like a little theoretical side. Since you said you are really interested in doing strategic decisions, how would you approach that side of product management if you were the one in charge?
Well, so I think that I need a bit more information. What exactly you mean by that?
Yeah, sure. Well, let's say your current project and your stakeholder come to you tomorrow and say, Katya, you're the one to decide where our current project will further develop, like and go, like which market, which customers, which monetization model, everything. It's up to you. Say it's project discovery all over again for you. What would be your actions from then on?
Well, it depends on what product I'm working on, right? So because it might be, so whether it's a bit,
your current one.
Okay, so it's B2C, right?
Yeah.
Well, so I think e-commerce is a B2C business, and we are working with end customers. I think that my main areas of interest to understand the strategic things and strategic priorities would be, on the one hand, understanding the market trends. So probably some research of the market reports, and again checking what's going on with the competitors, what's the aspirations for the upcoming years, let's say. So what are the global trends on our market? So it would be one thing. It would be for more longer term things, I guess. And on the other hand, I would pay a lot more attention to the voice of the customer, actually, to try and dig deeper into analytics of the current solution to understand the weak points. So, and it might be as simple as some UX problems which directly affects the conversion, for example, right? So if I can see that a lot of drop-off happens on a particular stage of the user flow, I can understand that probably something wrong with this particular page, that people drop off for some reason, right? So I would dig deeper into analytics, and potentially maybe thinking of doing some usability research, some more qualitative research, working closer to users, investigating forums, seeing the feedback, working closer with the customer services, because they are the first people who heard the bad things from the customers, right? So I think that would be my landscape to review, to get the idea of what to basically put into the roadmap and what to build next.
Yeah, all right, sounds awesome. Let's get back to some of the earlier parts of your story. You mentioned multiple stakeholders in your current project. Do you have sometimes some kind of conflict of, well, not really conflict of interests, other thing, but conflict of needs and ideas from different stakeholders? Like one person tells you one thing and the other sees this difference. Yeah. Do you have such situation? And if so, how do you react to them and how do you solve them?
Yeah, sure. So it's quite a frequent thing, to be honest. And what I can see usually is the conflict between technical management versus commercial side, because commercial people usually wants to build something faster. To get money, to get revenue for this, and technical people are more into building a proper IT landscape, so that it is aligned, that and it's stable, and and to cut long story short, sometimes there are some conflicts in there, because for example, if we want to, I don't know, introduce yet another payment method, commerce people might say, yeah, let's do that, and technical people might say, no, we actually need to have tokenized payment introduced before we do anything or something like that. So usually it comes to having the like common discussion with all the party involved, so that everyone can hear other person opinion and other person's standpoint, and together try to find a proper way to go. So we either might say that, yeah, we want to build it properly from the technical standpoint, so we would need to postpone this, or on the other hand, we might say that now we actually can build it fairly quickly without making too many shortcomings from the technical side. So let's do that. So it's a constant dance. So I think that the main thing here is that everyone involved has the same information at hand, and we communicate properly, frequently, and openly to come up with the solution.
So your role is to keep clarity between different parts.
Yeah. So that's my role, to be honest, as a business analyst, because honestly, I think that it's one of the most important thing for a BA to do, to keep the clarity, and so to make sure that everyone is aligned. So I think that it's quite a BA task.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I believe earlier you also mentioned that you have different BAs and UX designers on your project, and that facilitating them is some sort of part of your daily activities. What did you mean?
Well, it was actually, it's not on my current project, because on my current project with the fragrance retailer, I work as a product owner, and to be honest, I'm also working on the very high level UX flows when building when trying to find a solution for a particular problem. So I do it at a very high level, and then I discuss it with the designers who do proper mockups. So this is quite a straightforward interaction here. But what I told you in the beginning about this interaction with a lot of BAs and UX designers, it was my previous project, which was for the life science, and there we did have quite a big product team. There were about 10 BAs or even more, and about the same number of UX designers who worked on different functional areas of the solution. And there it was a very interesting experience, because while working on our own functional area, we still need to align at the system area, so that the whole solution looks as a whole, right? Not as a part of dispersed solutions doing their own job but not working together. So I think it was an interesting experience. I wasn't a lead in there, so my part was working on a couple of areas with a couple of designers. But yeah, overall it was a very interesting and challenging task to do, to align many people who work on the same solution, so that the solution look wholesome and coherent.
I see, makes sense. All right, thank you. And well, if you allow me to go back to requirements, I believe you so far mostly mentioned working on a high level, like a roadmap level of requirements.
Yeah.
Have you actually worked with breaking this roadmap into actual features, refining features into user stories, assigning them to developers, or it's not really your scope of work?
No, it's my scope of work. So it's actually I'm doing the whole cycle right now of requirement work, starting from the business requirements down to the functional requirements. And so what I do usually is after defining the business requirement and clarifying them, confirming them with all the stakeholders and interested parties, my next step is to create some kind of the user flow, if applicable. If it's a user-facing feature, obviously, if it's an integration, it's a different thing. But let's imagine for simplicity that it's a user-facing feature. And then my next step is to understand what would the user experience be like. So and having very, very high-level mockups, user flows, wireframes, whatever. Then I discussed this with the UX manager and confirm him that my solution suits everyone, or it's requires some amendments or something. So if it's fine from the user flow perspective, then I start working on the requirements, breaking down the particular feature into epics, user stories, depending on the size of the feature. So usually one feature is one epic, and then there are several user stories underneath, and then defining the acceptance criteria for everything. If needed, I also prepare the functional specification for this, so that we have more lower level system requirements documented and ready for use for the developers. And then it's up to me, obviously, to have several sessions with the development team. First, it's on when we have the business requirements. It's just to get the idea of a very high level estimation. Then when we have the drafted specification, I'll just walk them through the whole user flow and the solution approach, so that they say that whether they see any weak parts in there, so maybe something that I missed. And after everything is completed, we do the grooming session to review the specification once again, to break down it into development tasks and take it into work.
Got it. I see. And what about prioritization? Is it coming from you, from stakeholders, or you are working on prioritizing user stories together with team? And based on what?
Yeah, well, so to prioritize the work, we use the obviously first roadmap. Then, based on the roadmap, we define the release plan. So, based on the release plan, we understand what feature goes, which feature go into the next release. And then, based on this, we define what would be the priority for the things that go into the release. It's common practice for us is to have the highest priority for the features that were prioritized based on the roadmap and release plan. Then we have some free space for improvements, and which we can take. We have some freedom in there where we can take some improvements into work which we really deem as needed. So maybe some refactoring job is required, and we need to do that. So we have some wriggle space, let's say, to do that. And also we have some dedicated capacity for bug fixing and for some prod issues. So this is how it usually works. So when we start working on the feature, we already know the priority for the feature. Obviously, we can descope something if it seem not really required for the feature. It's like nice to have something. We can discuss it always with the business, and sometimes I do have this prioritization inside the feature to mark some user stories as nice to have that we can skip if we don't have enough time to do that. So that's how it basically works.
See, yeah, makes sense. And I think I forgot to ask which framework I want working under. Like, is it Agile, Waterfall, and if Agile, which exactly framework it is?
On the current project, it's the closest framework is, I guess, is Kanban. For our work. So we don't have sprints per se. We work more on a release basis, and I think the most important part is to keep work in progress limited. So that's the classic Kanban thing.
Yeah, sure.
And if talking about my previous experience, on my previous projects, I worked with Scrum Teams with the 2 to 3 weeks cadence.
And how big are your teams, especially your current team? I believe I haven't heard about the number of developers. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my team is about 16 people right now. So I'd say it's mid-size. Yeah, and as for my previous endeavors, I told you about the life science one, where we had more than 100 developers there. So there were about 6 to 7 Scrum teams, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even more. So it was quite a big one.
Yeah, like too big for Scrum, maybe. But anyway.
Yeah, well, it's we had Scrum of Scrums, and so all of this safe.
They had safe.
Yes, something similar to SAFe. And on my very first EPAM project, I also have a mid-sized team, about 15 to about 15 people, I guess, more or less, depending on the time. So yeah, something like that.
All right, I see. And by the way, Kate, do you have a technical background?
No, to be honest, I'm my degree is how do I translate it? I guess IT, business in IT. So
I'm asking because how do you handle like technical expertise needed to, to refine features into stories and to see what's feasible, etc.
Well, I work closely with the dev lead. I'm not too original with that, or with the architect, if possible. So sometimes my expertise is enough. I mean, if it's the question of understanding how a REST API works and whether we can integrate with this or not, so I can make some assumptions, but obviously I go and check with the dev lead. So I work with dev lead quite closely, and same with the QA. To be honest, I think that QA lead role is sometimes a bit underestimated, but QA are those people who knows the system best. So it's always worth checking with QAs the solution, because especially if it's a senior person who works quite long on the project, there might be some insights that I was just missing, but they would just provide it on the spot.
Okay, yeah, that's a good approach. All right, and are you also the one who is accepting these user stories after assigning them and after they've completed them?
Well, we have the acceptance internally. So yeah, we usually, when the feature is done, we do a demo for the business. So we accept it on our side, and then there is a second round of acceptance on the business side. So there is a business unit acceptance stage on our development cycle. But yeah, after development is done and QA is done, I accept the feature and pass it on.
All right, thank you. And well, let's talk a little about risks. How do you approach risks? Do you have any mitigation plans? And I believe you mentioned capacity for bugs. Anything else in that regard?
Yeah, well, so my main approach related to risks is to highlight them as early as possible. So when we start discussing the business requirements with the business, and I'm doing the high-level research, usually I have a dedicated section for first assumptions and constraints, and second for the potential risks. So obviously we can have technical risks, and again, maybe on the solution side of things, it's the most frequent risks that I encountered with. So there might be some technical risk related to, I don't know, new integration or dependency on external system. It's also quite happens quite often because we have a lot of different systems, and in order to build a particular feature, especially if it's cross-channel, so let's say in the store and online both, we need to align the delivery timelines for this. So there is a risk, and obviously there are quite a lot of typical BA risks like scope creep, like not getting all of the sign-offs and approvals on time. So this is also a constant thing, and yeah, but I do have some strategies. This obviously it involves constantly pinging people, sending them emails, setting up the deadlines for doing some sign-offs, and making them understand that if we don't do this particular thing by this time, unfortunately we cannot commit to deliver this. This or that.
People. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's my job.
Sure.
Sometimes.
I understand that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. And probably my favorite part, what about product documentation? What kind of documentation are you working with, creating, managing?
All right. Well, to be honest, my professional career actually started from the technical writer position. So I've been working as a technical writer for quite a number of years. So I kind of started from user-facing documentation. So, and I understand that it's super important, and it's one of the channels of communication with the end users and potentially with the customers if it's a B2C product. So it's super important to have and user documentation. I do have some experience creating user guides, both like documents and online web helps, using several frameworks to work with that, being a tech writer. So I did have some experience with the end user documentation, also with some technical guides, for more like admin guides and specialized documentation for this stuff. And obviously I'm working with the whole set of requirements documentation that includes a backlog in Jira or in TFS or whatever solution particular project uses, Confluence for the specifications, and also other artifacts. And I use extensively, quite extensively, other tools like Miraboard. Especially it's super useful for ideating and having the brainstorming sessions. Lucidchart for preparing the more analytical artifacts like different kinds of diagrams, UML, BPMN, and so on and so forth. So that really depends on the need and depends on the project. On my particular project, I don't work on the end user documentation, but my job is to prepare the specification and the required other BA artifacts. But during my other projects, I had some experience with multiple types of documentation.
I see. All right. And I believe you've mentioned tools. You mentioned Mira. What other tools do you use on your daily basis?
Well, let's see. I use Miro. I use for drawing. I use Draw.io. I use Lucidchart if I have a way to do that. I mean, not it's a paid tool, but it's a good one. Then obviously. But Jira Confluence is a must. Use Trello for tracking activities. I have some number of Trello boards with different for different projects. So we track our activities there. And related to the UX UI, I had some experience working with Figma, with Adobe XD, with InVision, Zeppelin, and so on and so forth. So that really depends on the particular project, which tools I used on the project. So currently I used mostly Miro, InVision, XD, Trello, Confluence, and Jira.
All right, thank you. And Kate, maybe you do have some delivery management experience, like project management, some activities from those areas?
Yeah, well, so I did substitute the project manager on one of my previous projects. So I worked both as a PM and and a BA on the project, ensuring the on-time delivery, planning, tracking the process, the progress, and so on. And to be honest, on my current in my current role, I also have some elements of project management, because I'm the one who is working on the drafted delivery plans based on the roadmap. So then we have a lot of rounds of discussions with many people. What would be the final version of the delivery plan? But the first version is mine. So I work with the estimations, with understanding how long it's going to take, with planning up and sequencing activities, and with defining the date for the release. So yeah, that's part of my job too.
I see. Awesome. And I believe coming to the later stage of our interview, for you personally, like what's the key difference between business analysis and product manager? And how do you see your activities in a new title, new position, being a product manager compared to being a business analyst?
Yeah, well, so as I said previously, I guess I'm very interested in going into this strategic area of defining why we're going to build this instead of how we're going to build this, right? So I'm interested in why and what more than how now, because I know, but I have quite an experience right now how to build with building things. But what I'm more interested in right now, and I think that it's an area for development, is to understand the why and the what. So going into a more strategic strategic area, understanding the what we want to build, for whom we want to build this, who is our customer, what was the target, how we would define the success, and all of these things. I think this is very important, and it would allow me to have more holistic view, even if I would still work with the delivery. I mean, working on the ground with the delivery team, working on the features and releasing them, I would have more visibility on why we are building this and how we decide that we're going to build this, and how we're gonna define whether it's a success or not.
I see. All right. Well, I believe those were my main questions. Maybe we do have some questions from the chat, from the audience, which we can also ask. Can anybody help me with that? Because I don't really see any new questions, unanswered questions at least. see. Right, do we have any questions? Can anyone put any update in any of the chats?
I think that we have some questions in the chat, but Vlad already answered it.
Yeah, I only saw two, right?
Yeah,
Questions.
yeah. So no more open questions for that moment. Everything was perfect and clear.
Okay, I believe I can see one new question from Magdalena Stefanova, right?
Yeah, yeah.
For what
Right
level
now.
was the interview? Well, the interview, generally in EPAM, when I'm doing interviews, I don't really have one specific title in my mind and thinking that this person has to fit this title or not. I'm looking at person and thinking which level he can fit, and then I provide a feedback where I describe that. In this particular case, I believe Katerina is a senior BA, and we are making an interview, having in mind that she might become an associate product manager, right?
Yeah, I'm a lead BA. Yes, and I guess it's for, for associate.
Should I provide my general thoughts to try to answer the questions that were previously asked?
If you think that there is some additional point that you need to highlight, let's do so.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Obviously, my general impression of Ekaterina was that she was really a high-level and professional business analyst. And however, she has outlined since the beginning that she is mostly a business analyst and that she is not touching some areas of product management, which is nonetheless interested in, but she's not working with that. So I tried to give this conversation sometimes a theoretical approach to see how would she handle this or that situation, even though she hadn't had the specific experience in those areas. And I think that for me, technical interview and interview in general, it's a little more, should be a little more egocentric, right? I would prefer, and probably I would get a better impression, a little better impression, if Ekaterina would mostly put things in a way that me, like I did that, I achieved that, that was due to me, you know, a little egoistic, maybe a little arrogant, but there is a certain balance here between those two sides. But still, I believe for me as an interviewer, it's sometimes better to know how the candidate believe what role he played and what he personally, or they personally, right, achieved.
Thank you, Ramo, for the comments. And thank you a lot, Kate, for your bravance and that you spend all this time together with us. Thank you a lot. I think that we can make you have a break and relax after such an extensive interview. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Katerina, a lot for enduring all of that.
My pleasure.
Great. And we can stay and continue with some comments. And I think that we will wait till the Kate will change to Vlad on our screens.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me here with the comments. I tried to keep up with the interview during the as it progressed, as it moved along, and I tried to post the comments. I think everybody noticed that most of the time, Kate was saying, we did, we this. Yeah, and I've seen a couple of people posting this in the chat. I agree wholeheartedly. This is the interview, right? This is not a status meeting. So I'm expecting to hear because I'm not trying to gauge what the whole team did. I'm trying to gauge what this particular candidate did. So using the word I and talking about personal achievements, personal experience, what that particular candidate, what that particular person have done, even if it's a part of the team, is expected. And anything less than that is, it sounds a little strange. Like if you're not saying I did this, then what are you saying all this time? I'm not saying she didn't do anything. Apparently that's not the case, but it's all right to use I. There's nothing wrong with that. This is what's expected. I always approach the interview as less of what's the right word? It's less of a status meeting, less of a I don't know, less of a discussion and more of a sales call, right? Effectively what we're trying to do is we're trying to sell. I try to sell myself to the people who are interviewing me and interviewing the company in return. This is also my opportunity to gauge the responses or gauge how my answers are going over with the interviewer and see if I make sense, if I answer the questions correctly. So as an interviewer, I try to understand what is this particular person's thinking. So Roman, not to think particularly you with the questions. There were some really good questions and some very pointed questions in the areas where they should be a little bit more open-ended. I believe Katerina did a good job rephrasing some of them, but obviously not all of them. So there's balance. But I prefer to ask more open-ended questions to let the candidate explain more, elaborate more on their particular experience. And it's really interesting how people react to certain things. And yes, and again, going back to some of the questions we've seen in the Q&A chat, yes, sometimes it's okay to interrupt the candidate and direct them into the, here's where you need to go. That's not the right direction. Sometimes it's okay to let them go on for a bit because there's stress obviously involved. There's a lot of things that are going on. The person's trying to come up with the answers on the spot. Try not to look nervous. Try not to feel nervous, because even if you don't have a camera on, you can still hear this in the voice. I don't know how all those little things. It feels like they play against you. So there's a lot of hidden stress going on. And sometimes it's okay to let the person keep going, even if you understand that basically they're done. They don't have anything else to say. But in terms of alleviating the stress, that's fine. Did I miss anything? Were there any other things that I should have touched on? I just try to be more at a higher level, see if I can address the whole interview, not some particular points.
Maybe we exactly can go to some particular points, some question that you think can be what are waiting during each of the questions, and maybe we just can have a quick recap of the main question that Roman discussed with Katerina, and just describe our expectation from the candidates during these questions.
My expectations, okay, that's a good question. My expectations are, I want to hear product manager talking. And by saying that, I mean, I want to hear three things. I want to hear a person understanding the bigger picture. I want to hear a person who has certain leadership traits. And I want to hear a person who's not afraid to make mistakes. And obviously, if I hear all these three, it already tells me that this person has good communication skills. They are prepared to take on the product manager role. They may not know certain things. Believe me, and I made this comment that, hey, if it takes too long to say the words engagement and adoption, there's something wrong with it. But believe me, I've done the same mistake. I'm not trying to make the candidate feel bad. I made exactly the same mistake. I forgot those two words. I was so stressed in the interview, I forgot those two words. It happens. Hey, Happens to the best of us. So it's okay. That's not, let's say if I was grading this interview or if I was grading this candidate, this would not be something I would grade against the candidate. But I would say things like, hey, I did this. I went to a business owner and said, you are wrong. These are the things we need to do. Yes, they didn't listen to me, but I did it anyway. That's the type of the answers I want to hear. So it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to propose something that ends up being wrong. Hey, I had this idea. We wanted to build something. We tried to spend some cycles on it, and it didn't work. And I got chastised for that. You know, I got slapped on the wrist or whatever. It's all right. You tried it. You believed in your idea. And you tried it, and you took it upon yourself to execute on it, or at least start doing something. So those are the things I'm looking for. And that's where I am going to grade the candidate and ding the candidate specifically. All I kept hearing was very like, I am a BA. This is what I'm being told. I'm a BA. This is what I was told. I'm informed. Yes, officially you are informed, but you know, break out of this box, do something. And that's what, to me, that's what makes good product managers. And I work with a number of BAs on projects, on this project, previous projects, on other projects. I can basically, after a couple of weeks working with them, I can pretty much say that I would want that person to grow into the product manager, or I can say that that person is amazing BA. Please don't change anything. Just keep them a BA. Don't don't break it. If it's not broken, don't fix it. So that's kind of where I am. That's what I think would be important in the product manager interview. Is there anything else that I miss? I see the chat is going, but I'm trying to focus on the camera. So
yeah, we have one more question about, we had a behavior interview, and the guy is just asking whether it's better to use a case interview instead.
That's up to the interviewer. I try to use cases. I've been on a few interviews where I tried to use cases, and my core interviewer kind of broke out of it and started asking different questions. It was very, very interesting experience. I can't say it was bad experience. It was very interesting to see how the candidate would react, how they would pivot from, oh, here's the case. Oh, wait, here's not something else. Here's going back to my career. Obviously, if candidate handles it well, then yeah, he's a keeper or she's a keeper. But I prefer to use cases for one single reason. The candidate will, if the candidate doesn't have a story to tell about their experience, about their resume, they shouldn't even be on interview. Like TA should not even pass them through. So I expect them to have a story about their career, about their interview. I expect it to be polished. I expect it to be flawless. But it doesn't tell me anything about how the candidate thinks. It tells me that they've prepared for the interview. So what I want to hear is how they think on their feet. Here's a scenario, and it's usually something simple and easy. No, I mean, not simple, not easy, but I try to give them scenarios so I can see how they react, and then I throw a couple of curveballs, and I tell them, here's the curveball. I'm making your life harder, and sometimes people react pretty unpredictably, but it's always a good experience. And frankly, that's what makes you go to the same interviews, ask same or similar questions, but this is what makes it exciting every single time, because I at some point I was doing interviews almost every week, and I was asking very similar scenario every time. Never got the same answer ever. Every candidate had absolutely different vision, absolutely different approach to the problem. It was absolutely amazing.
Great. And we have a question to Kate, but I think that we also can discuss it right now. What resources do you use to learn about product management?
Any takers? For everyone. I think it's worth everybody answer that.
Yeah.
All right. Personally, I actually liked one of the very simple answers from Kate regarding the different questions that she just Google things. And I believe just Googling something might be really useful, and it actually served me well in numerous cases. So first thing, sometimes when I face something unknown to me, and I believe most people, well, particularly I can talk about myself as a product manager, there are still a lot of areas where I'm not an expert, and there might be some concepts I'm not familiar with. First thing, I start to Google them, and then I just look at the articles, so try to understand whether I need that or not, or whether I need additional information or not, etc. Aside from that, personally, I also underwent different certifications, professional certifications for Agile product management, which set up foundations for my knowledge, I believe. So, yeah.
Thank you a lot.
Yeah, I like to talk to people. I like to see people's perspectives on things. We have a tiny little product management chat in North America going. Hidden secrets. So that's one of the sources. There are a few really interesting blogs. There are a few really interesting email distributions are coming from product management resources. So they are pretty targeted. So, you know, a topic of today is this, and there's a bunch of articles on that topic. So all of that together kind of builds my understanding and forms my opinion and knowledge base. And sometimes I would go into the article expecting completely to disagree with 100%. Like, these guys don't know what they're writing about, and it's like, oh, well, they have a point. I should be more cautious about thinking things like. So it's you know, the more the merrier. But to Roman's point, I prefer a little bit more skewed opinion towards, you know, these are reputable sources versus just Googling things. So that's just my 5 cents on it.
Okay. And the personal question to you, Vlad, what is the best book on product management you'd recommend?
I don't. I rather not recommend any books. The difference, and I learned this 20 years ago when I was still in technology, doing software development and managing software developers. Any book published on any contemporary technology is already obsolete. So you read online resources because they get updated more often. That's my very personal opinion. I am not saying no, don't read books. Science fiction is amazing, but I wouldn't go for books. I would go for opinions, resources, articles, blogs, podcasts, anything that's happening right now, that's happening today.
Great, thank you. And as I see, we have no more questions, but dear audience, we have still several minutes left. So take this moment to ask some questions to our interviewers. And the question from myself, still we are waiting. Oh, the question from the audience. Okay, what their best online resource?
I just answered it, SVPG.
SVPG. Oh yeah, that's great.
I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So I totally forgot the question that I wanted to ask you. Yeah, usually from product management, we wait to hear some achievement that they have. What achievements will you assess as great achievements from product manager during the interview and my self-presentation?
Come again, like
product achievements. Yeah, product achievements. What achievements is good, and what is good to mention as my achievements in product management?
Well, obviously, the best achievement for product management would be probably I managed to introduce this new product to market, which you are familiar with, especially especially if it's something the other person knows and uses, but also, of course, that not always the case. That might be an existing product, even if it's not very well known. If it's there, if it's in the market, and if it has its audience, then it is still a success. And it is a great portfolio, like a good picture in the portfolio of artists, a good product in the portfolio of product manager. I believe that's the greatest achievement one can have. But if those were mostly sometimes, B2B products which cannot be accessed too easily, just describe in a maybe in an egoistic manner, like I did that to achieve that and to introduce our customer to such and such value. Like it's through me, the customer got value which otherwise the customer probably would not get, or even would completely go to bankruptcy. You can maybe even a little exaggerate things sometimes to actually show that you played an important role in the project.
Thank you. What will you say?
I completely agree. Nothing speaks better than the products put to the market. I tend to. I'm 100% with Roman. It's what you do, right? And I would just add a little flavor to it. I would put it against the number of failed products that you try to put onto the market, and they failed or failed at the prototype stage, at the MVP stage, whatever. But so just to show how much of a work is happening behind the scenes. Like one of my first introductions way back was I worked for this company as a product manager, and in 2.5 years, we put out 2.5 products to the market out of 15 that have, everything else failed, only 2 succeeded. So that's our kind of success ratio. But we've learned so much during that. That's why we were able to put those 2 out to the market. And so, like Roman said, yeah, that's the value that you're showing. And if your customer would have proceeded with those failed products without you, they may not have realized that it's a not a good value proposition, not a good product, and yeah, they would have went bankrupt, something. So, yep, I completely 100% agree with Roman's answer. That's a very good one.
Great, thank you a lot. And just checking. Yeah, I think that the questions are ended. Thank you a lot for that great opportunity to be in real interview for us today and to hear all your comments. Thank you. And guys, see you on the next session, discussing all the material that are useful to read and follow to have your skills developed. Thank you, guys. See you.
All right. Thank you for this awesome time. And thanks again to Kate. I think she was the hero of this story today.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you all.